Welcome today to Hope and Healing at Home's Instagram Live, which I will edit and put on YouTube as well. And there'll be lots of information, links, and fun things on the newsletter that will come out later, which you can sign up for at hopeandhealingathome.com or follow the links either below the video or in my bio. So inspired, again, as always, by several different things today. We've done some kind of intense things the last couple weeks with big directives and things like that. And so today I thought we'd lighten up a little bit and do a little bit of play. And typically when we make art, we think of adding marks to paper, adding color, adding lines, adding shapes. And today I thought we would reverse that. I thought we'd think about taking things off. And I titled it Playing with Shadows because we're going to start with darkness and we're going to pull it out and play with the different values of dark and light, but doing it the reverse way, pulling the light out and leaving the shadow behind. And I was thinking of shadow plays that we did in grade school where you'd cut out the image. It didn't matter what kind of paper you cut it out from because all you were going to see is the shadow that it created on the wall or behind the screen. A couple artists that inspired me with classes this week. One was Yvonne Morel. She is a Swiss artist. And then the other one was Sabra Issa. One of the things that Sabra said was, you can't alter anything until you have something on the paper. And then Yvonne, what I was excited about with hers was the idea of filling the page with blackness and then erasing out the highlights and the midtones and things like that. And then you can go ahead and add darker values and you can even add white at the end, but it starts with filling your page with something and then taking something out. And I just liked that idea. I thought there was a lot of parallels to draw with that idea and our lives. So things that you might want to gather: some scratch paper. Perhaps you have some kind of charcoal, whether it's in like a willow or a powder or a compressed stick, or whether it's in pencil form. Some erasers. I have the Mono Zero, the super teeny tiny eraser for details, and then I also just grabbed a mechanical pencil and just irregular eraser. I grabbed a couple blending sticks. I have paper towel here as well. It can just help keep your fingers a little bit cleaner, because if you use any kind of stick or willow or vine charcoal, your fingers will get messy. And if you like to blend things with your fingers will get messy, but that can be a fun part of art as well. And then just in case for the end bit, I got a white gel pen. This is a white Stabilo pencil for some extra highlights perhaps at the end to add that. Some paint brushes and water in case we want to move the charcoal around with that. And then I also grabbed a black China marker maybe for some final super dark touches. You could have some kind of a gel black Pit pen for those final super dark details. And then I have some images that might be kind of inspiring today. So maybe grab an image that you like. High contrast is good. I have several of people. Some silhouettes that I thought might be interesting to create. Some dramatic shadows on faces. And I get images from magazines a lot or from unsplash.com because those are copyright free. But don't feel like you have to do a face today. You could also do something like a forest or a cup plate or like a still life, anything that you want, or just play. You don't actually have to make any kind of image. The starting point is going to be to take some charcoal, and I'm going to use this because I can use the side of it, and just fill your paper with darkness. And sometimes you can start to see things just in that, like an ink blot. I think we were talking about the Rorschach ink blot test and how you can see images in random blobs, basically, random splashes of ink, of color. And so sometimes it's really fun just to put it on there because as it unevenly layered itself, it didn't do anything with intention. I was just filling the paper up. You can start to see some shapes and you just start removing them until you get an image start to come to life. I couldn't find my kneaded eraser as I was setting up today, but a kneaded eraser could be a lot of fun for this part too, because the nice thing about a kneaded eraser is you can keep cleaning it just by, like its name says, kneading it on itself. So like to clean this kind of eraser, I need to take a rag and wipe some of it off, or you can have a spare piece of paper, or just do it right on the edge here, erase itself. I wasn't expecting to see a big face in this. Don't worry about if this is actually looking like someone. You just let the shapes transform. Whatever you see, just keep embellishing that with this. And we all might see something different in this start to take shape. Sometimes it's just fun to do things the reverse of normal. Focus on the lines so much and trying to make it look just so. And if you realize you took too much out, you can put a little bit back in. You can blend with your fingers. You can blend with these blending tools. So there's fun things. When I was thinking about shadows, some of the things I was thinking about are shadows can easily startle us, and they look different. They often look different than what they actually are shadows of. So we can't rely on them for pure accuracy. Shadows distort that, like they can be, if any of you tried to take a picture of your own shadow, like, oh wait, I don't look quite like that. My legs aren't that long, or my head's not that wide, or it just like in real life it looks a little funny. And then especially if you try to take a photo and you look at it and you're like, oh, that is not actually what I look like. They can be longer, they can be skinnier, they can be shorter, wider. People use shadows to tell the time. Shadows change as the light shifts in the day and create shadow puppets in the dark. Maybe somebody's a little bit afraid of the dark, they're a little uneasy. Well, if you start making shadow puppets with your hands, suddenly it becomes fun to be in the dark, right? Suddenly we have alligators and dogs and butterflies and birds dancing around the walls, and everybody's trying to figure out how to manipulate their hands to create that shape. It can distract us. We talk in psychology a lot about our shadow side. Usually we're talking about that darker side of who we are. Usually people, when they say shadow side, they're kind of talking about those things maybe they don't really love about themselves. They try to cover up. But there's also a lot of good information that we could take from our shadow side. One thing I was thinking about is, without shadows, we have no depth. Like, if I just take a pencil, and I'll just stick with faces. Here we put, the face in here. I'm not going for artistic quality here, just a quick little face. Here. Like, all's fine and good, right? We can tell this is some kind of a face. But once we start adding shade, shadows, the different values, suddenly it starts to take, and I know this is not a fabulous drawing, but I think it starts to get that point across of, without these shadows, it's a very flat image. And once we start putting shadows in and allowing there to also be those highlights, suddenly our image starts to come off the page. So we need our shadow side. We need to pay attention to it, because it can offer us information that we can't get another way. So you're thinking of things that you don't necessarily love about yourself or about the way you respond to something. Sometimes it's important to pay attention to that and ask that shadowy side of yourself, why are you acting like that? Why do you feel like that? What's going on? What do I need to pay attention to? What need are you trying to have met? So ideas on shadows, ideas of trying to do things a little different, whether you're doing art or doing things in life. Are there things, maybe thinking of this subtractive kind of method, which I'm going to go back to. This was just one example, and then I used a dirty eraser, really ground in some color here that I didn't want, but we can fix that later. Thinking of adding shadow, of removing light where the light hits or where light radiates. but not ignoring. We can't ignore the shadows in life. We actually really need those, where we have no depth. We can't tell that something recedes into the background. We can't tell that it's three-dimensional if there's no shadows cast by the light. They show us volume, they show us contrast. Sometimes it's just kind of hard to stop. I don't know if you guys have that issue. We'll work on that some other time. So source photos as inspiration, made the basic shape of one side here. You don't want everybody thinking they have to make a face. So you can see what the typical, the general shape is of it. Smear it around and get it more even if you'd like. And you can do that with your finger, you can do that with a paintbrush, you can do it with your paper towel, and that leaves some kind of cool texture too, I think. Kind of like that smoky feel. And then you can start erasing just where you see the highlights come in. It's actually playing with shadows. Also gets you really focused in on where the light is, doesn't it? So you can't have one without the other. Life would be pretty boring if we only had shadows or if we only had light. And we can make them blur again into the background if you want like a middle kind of value shade. If you want to smear over something, that's one thing I love about charcoal, is you can always smear it back out. You can always add things in. You can lighten up, you can darken up. We're talking about shadows, how we can add depth to our images, I'm talking about the shadow sides of ourselves, using source photos to create an image to our liking. It doesn't have to be a face, it could be a forest, it could be a flower. You could kind of get the shape of a cup and blend it in. A little darker, and then start erasing around it, just as a little different way to create an image on your page. And as you're playing with art, think about the shadow side of your life and different pieces of your life that maybe you're not thrilled with, but what can that tell you about yourself, about your needs? Maybe there's things that, thinking of the subtractive method, are there things in your life maybe that need to be taken out of your life so it doesn't feel so dark, or it doesn't feel so busy? Maybe to gain some clarity, some things have to come out to reveal what's there in your life. Maybe it needs some refinement. Remember, once you do the original taking out of darkness, you can add even further darkness so that you have this like middle. Once you've taken things out, if you realize it just doesn't feel like it has enough depth, you can create like different shades of the middle tone. So just doing that, you get a couple shades. You get this dark, but you could make something darker by adding another layer. You could make it lighter and lighter and lighter. You could create designs, all by lifting stuff out, and then you could add a few little things at the end to really ramp up the contrast, and our life needs contrast in it. So there is a therapeutic value to playing around like this, and I will have more of those questions and insights in the newsletter. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you do some playing with shadows, whether it's putting darkness on paper and doing something visually like this, seeing what comes out of the dark without any kind of a plan, or grabbing a source photo and trying to recreate it and seeing what story that tells you in your mind, what ideas, what emotions and thoughts that brings out to you. So there's always a fun, interesting bit that happens in the reflection part, which I'll have lots of reflection ideas in the newsletter. So make sure you sign up for that. And I'm always looking forward to hearing from you about what is helpful in these videos, how I can make them better to meet your needs and answer your questions. So please let me know. Shoot me a note if there's something you'd really like me to address, whether it's like a motion or an art process or an art material that you'd just like to see. Try something new. Oh, I was going to show you guys a couple other things really quick. When you like your image, you can fix it with hairspray or with a workable fixative. You can also take your charcoal and you can use water and create some kind of interesting effects that way. And then you can come in with white chalk or pencils, oils, crayons, things like that to add an extra highlight if you weren't thrilled with how clean your eraser could get it. You could do that with the gel pen as well, which can be really nice when you're creating an eye for just those final little highlights. Just a little touch of pure white with a gel pen is a nice little touch. Do some shadow play today, whether it's on paper or with shadows on the wall with light. Enjoy that process. You guys have a good day.